She sang in the church choir. She held my hand and told me God brought us together. I believed her. I thought I'd finally found an angel in Angelus. But one night, I saw the truth, and it shattered everything. I first heard Angela's voice on a Sunday morning in that small Catholic church on MacArthur Highway. The sunlight was streaming through those cheap, stained glass windows, and her voice just cut through everything pure, sweet, like nothing I'd heard in my 59 years. I was sitting in the back pew, sweating in my pressed shirt, feeling like the outsider I was. Then she turned during the closing hymn and smiled at me. Just me. My heart actually stopped. "You came back," she said after the service, walking straight toward me while other churchgoers filed past. She wore a simple white dress, her hair pulled back, no makeup, beautiful in that clean, untouched way that made me feel like I was looking at something sacred. I managed to say, my voice rough from years of shouting orders on construction sites back in Birmingham. "You're singing. It's incredible. God gave me this gift," she said, touching my arm gently. "Maybe He brought you here to hear it." I felt something I hadn't felt since my divorce 3 years earlier. Hope. This girl, barely 21, was telling me that maybe I mattered to someone. Maybe even to God. "I'm Angela," she said, extending her small hand. David Clark." Her grip was soft but sure. "Are you staying in Angelus long, David?" "As long as it takes to figure out what I'm supposed to do next," I said, surprising myself with the honesty. "Then maybe you'll come back next Sunday? We need more voices in the congregation." I nodded, unable to speak. She squeezed my hand once more and walked away, her dress swaying as she went. I stood there for 10 minutes after she left, just breathing in the lingering scent of her perfume and feeling like maybe, just maybe, I'd found what I came to the Philippines to find. That night in my cheap hotel room, I kept replaying her words. "Maybe He brought you here to hear it." I'd been running from everything back home, my ex-wife's bitter words, my daughter who wouldn't return my calls, the emptiness that followed me everywhere. But sitting in that church, watching Angela sing, I felt peace for the first time in years, like I wasn't just some broken old man anymore. Like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The divorce papers were finalized on a Tuesday in March. Sarah took the house, half my pension, and our daughter Emma's loyalty. 28 years of marriage, gone because I worked too much, cared too little, and never learned how to say the right words when they mattered most. "You're emotionally unavailable, David," Sarah had said during one of our last fights. "Emma doesn't even know who you are anymore." She was right. I'd spent so many years building other people's houses that I'd forgotten how to build a home. By the time I tried to fix things, it was too late. Emma was 26, living in London, and treating me like a stranger who sent birthday cards. So I sold everything I had left and bought a one-way ticket to the Philippines. I'd heard other expats talk about starting over in Asia, how life was cheaper, people were kinder, and maybe an old fool like me could find some peace. But peace was harder to find than I thought. The first months in Manila were lonely as hell. The heat, the noise, the constant reminder that I didn't belong anywhere. I moved to Angelus thinking it might be different, quieter. That's when I found the church. That's when I found her. Angela was everything I thought I'd lost the chance to have. Young, yes, but not in that predatory way that made other expats look like fools. She was educated, spoke perfect English from her university studies. She was kind to the elderly Filipino women who barely tolerated me. She was pure, untouched by the cynicism that had eaten away at everything good in my life. "You have sad eyes," she told me after my second Sunday at church, "but kind eyes. I can see you've been hurt." How did she know? How did this girl who'd barely lived see straight through to the broken pieces I'd been hiding for years? "Life didn't turn out the way I planned," I said. "God has different plans for us than we have for ourselves," she replied. "Maybe your real life is just beginning." I wanted to believe her. God, how badly I wanted to believe her. Angela started inviting me to family lunches at her mother's small house in the subdivision behind the church. Luz, her mother, would cook these incredible meals: adobo, lumpia, rice that somehow tasted better than anything I'd ever eaten. Angela would translate when Luz spoke Kapampangan, always making me feel welcome, never making me feel stupid for not understanding. "Mama says you have a good heart," Angela would tell me. "She can see it in how you treat me." The way Angela looked at me during those lunches made me feel like a man worth knowing again. She'd ask about my life in England, about construction work, about what I missed most about home. I miss feeling needed. I told her one Sunday afternoon as we sat on her mother's small porch. "You are needed," she said, taking my hand. "God brought you here for a reason, David. I can feel it." "What reason?" "To show me that good men exist. To show me that love doesn't have to hurt." The way she said it, so quietly, so full of pain, made me want to protect her from whatever had hurt her before. She was too pure, too trusting for this world. Men had probably taken advantage of her kindness, her beauty. But I wouldn't. I would be different. "You make me believe again," she whispered. "In good men, in hope." Those words hit me like a physical blow. When was the last time anyone had told me I made them believe in anything? When was the last time I'd been someone's hope instead of someone's disappointment? I started helping with small things. Her textbooks for university cost more than I'd expected, so I offered to help. Just temporary, until her scholarship kicked in. "I can't accept this," she said when I handed her the cash. "Please, let me help. It would mean everything to me." "You're too good to me, David," she said, tears in her eyes. "I don't deserve this kindness." "You deserve everything good in this world," I said, and I meant it. That night, she hugged me longer than usual. I could feel her trembling against my chest, and I thought it was gratitude. I thought it was the beginning of something beautiful. The requests started small and always came with tears. Angela's younger brother Paulo needed new school shoes. Her mother's blood pressure medication was expensive this month. The church needed donations for a new roof. "I hate asking," Angela would say, her voice breaking, "but you're the only person I trust. How could I say no?" This girl who sang like an angel, who brought me into her family, who made me feel valued again, she needed me. For the first time in years, someone actually needed me. But I started noticing things. Angela would sometimes avoid me in the evenings, saying she had study groups or choir practice that ran late. "Which subject?" I'd ask. "Psychology," she'd say quickly. "We have a big exam coming up." When I'd offer to pick her up afterward, she'd shake her head. "The other students might get the wrong idea about us, you understand?" I did understand. Sort of. She was young, I was nearly 60. She had a reputation to protect in a conservative community. It made sense. But sometimes I'd call her phone late at night, just to say goodnight, and it would go straight to voicemail. When I'd ask about it the next day, she'd say the battery died or she'd fallen asleep studying. "You worry too much, David," she'd say, touching my cheek. "I'm not going anywhere. You're my blessing." My friend Martin, another expat, who'd been in Angela's for 5 years, pulled me aside after church one Sunday. "Be careful, mate," he said, lighting his cigarette outside. "These girls, they're not always what they seem." "Angela's different," I said. "That's what we all think," he replied. "Just keep your eyes open, yeah?" But I didn't want to keep my eyes open. I wanted to keep them closed and believe in the dream Angela had given me. For the first time since my divorce, I felt like I was living instead of just surviving. I couldn't sleep that Thursday night. The humidity was suffocating, and my cheap air conditioning unit sounded like a dying animal. It was almost midnight when I decided to take a walk, maybe find a 7-Eleven that was still open, grab a cold drink. I was walking down MacArthur Highway when I saw the neon lights of Fields Avenue ahead, the bar district. I'd heard about it but never went there. It wasn't for men like me, men who were trying to find something real, something pure. That's when I saw her. Angela stepped out of a club called Paradise, and for a moment I thought I was hallucinating from the heat. She was wearing tight jeans, a low-cut black top, and makeup that transformed her face into something I didn't recognize. Her hair was down, wild and free in a way I'd never seen. She was laughing, her head thrown back, as 2 Western men flanked her on either side. My chest tightened. My hands started shaking. This couldn't be her. My Angela wore modest dresses and sang hymns. My Angela studied psychology and cared for her sick mother. But then she turned, and even in the harsh neon light, even with the makeup and the tight clothes, I knew that face. I knew that smile. It was her. I watched from across the street as she climbed into a taxi with the 2 men. The taxi pulled away, heading toward the hotels, and I stood there on that dirty sidewalk feeling like the ground had opened up beneath me. I walked back to my hotel room and sat on the edge of my bed until sunrise, staring at nothing, trying to make sense of what I'd seen. There had to be an explanation. There had to be a reason. My angel wouldn't lie to me, not after everything we'd shared, not after the way she looked at me, touched me, made me believe I was worth something again. By the time the sun came up, I'd convinced myself I'd made a mistake. It was someone who looked like Angela. It had to be. The real Angela was probably home, studying for her psychology exam, preparing for choir practice, being the pure, beautiful girl I'd fallen in love with. But deep down, in a place I didn't want to acknowledge, I knew the truth. I'd seen it with my own eyes, and it changed everything. I waited 3 days before I said anything. 3 days of her usual morning texts asking about my day, of her sweet voice on the phone talking about church and school and her family. 3 days of watching her perform the role of the innocent girl I'd fallen for. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. I was walking near Fields Avenue on Thursday night. I said when we met for coffee after her morning classes, "I thought I saw you." The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. Too quickly. Fields Avenue? David, I would never go there. That place it's not for girls like me. I saw you come out of a club called Paradise. You were with 2 men. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. She stared down at her coffee cup, and when she looked up, her eyes were filled with tears. "Oh, David," she whispered, "I wanted to tell you. I've been trying to find the courage." "Tell me what?" Sometimes I work there, just serving drinks just for the money. My family needs so much, and school is so expensive, and I didn't know how else." She was crying now, real tears streaming down her cheeks. "It's not what you think," she continued. "I just serve drinks. I smile at the customers. That's all. I swear on my mother's life, that's all." I wanted to believe her. God, how desperately I wanted to believe her. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was ashamed. Because I knew you'd look at me differently. You're such a good man, David, pure and kind. I didn't want to dirty that with my problems." "Angela, it means nothing," she said, reaching across the table to grab my hands. "Those men, that place, none of it means anything. You mean everything. You're the only person who sees the real me, who loves the real me, the real her." Which one was the real Angela? The choir girl in the white dress, or the woman in tight jeans, laughing with strangers? "I'll stop," she said. "If it hurts you, I'll stop. I'll find another way." "How much do you need?" "David, no. I can't ask you for more." "How much?" she told me. It was more than I'd expected, but not more than I could handle. Not if it meant keeping her away from that place, away from those men. "I'll cover it," I said. "Your tuition, your family's expenses, everything. But you have to promise me you'll never go back there." "I promise," she said, squeezing my hands. "I promise, David. You've saved me." That night, she held me tighter than ever before. She whispered that she loved me, that I was her hero, that God had sent me to rescue her from a life she never wanted. I believed her because I needed to believe her. Because the alternative, that everything I thought I knew about her was a lie, was too painful to accept. For 3 weeks, everything went back to normal. Angela returned to her sweet morning calls, her modest dresses, her hymns in the church choir. She was more affectionate than before, more grateful, telling me constantly how much my support meant to her and her family. But something had changed in me. Every time she was late answering her phone, every time she had an excuse for why we couldn't meet, a little voice in my head wondered where she really was. I hated that voice. I fought against it, but it was there. Then came that Sunday night. I was walking back from dinner when I saw her again. This time she was sitting at an outdoor table at a bar called Temptations, directly across from the church where she sang every Sunday morning. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't trying to be discreet. She was laughing with a man about my age, another expat, with gray hair and expensive clothes, and she was touching his arm the same way she touched mine. The same way. My legs felt like they were going to give out. I ducked behind a parked jeepney and watched as she leaned in close to whisper something in his ear. He smiled and handed her something cash, folded small and discreet. She slipped it into her purse with practiced ease. This wasn't serving drinks, this wasn't innocent, this was something else entirely. I walked straight to the bar. "Angela." She turned, and for a split second, I saw panic in her eyes. Then she smiled that same sweet smile I'd fallen in love with. "David, what are you doing here?" "I think I should be asking you that question." The man she was with looked uncomfortable. "Maybe I should go," he said with an Australian accent. "No," Angela said quickly. David was just leaving. Weren't you, David? Actually, no, I wasn't. She excused herself from her companion and walked over to me, her face hard in a way I'd never seen before. You're embarrassing me, she hissed. I'm embarrassing you? You can't just show up like this. You can't control my life. I thought you said you stopped. You promised me. I lied, she said, her voice flat and cold. I'm 21 years old, David. I'm young and beautiful, and I need a future. You can't give me that. The words hit me like a physical blow. What about everything you said? About God bringing us together? About me being your blessing? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You were useful, she said. You helped my family. You paid my bills. But useful isn't enough for a lifetime. Angela, I'm not your angel, David. I never was. I'm just a girl trying to survive, and you were too lonely to see the difference. She walked back to her table, back to her Australian companion, and never looked at me again. I stood there for 10 minutes, watching her laugh and flirt and touch his arm, before I finally walked away. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely light a cigarette. I couldn't let it end like that. Not after everything. Not after I'd given her everything I had left to give. I waited for her outside the university the next morning. She saw me coming and tried to walk the other way, but I caught up. Please, I said. Just give me 5 minutes. David, don't do this. I love you, I said, and the words sounded pathetic even to me. I know you love me too. What we had was real. What we had was convenient, she said, not stopping, not looking at me. I'll still help you, with school, with your family, whatever you need. Just don't do this anymore. Don't go back to those places. She stopped walking and turned to face me. For a moment, I thought I saw something soft in her eyes, something like the girl I'd fallen in love with. David, she said quietly, you're a good man. You are. You gave me comfort when I needed it, and I'm grateful for that. But comfort isn't enough. It could be, if you gave it a chance. I'm 21, she repeated. I have dreams, ambitions, a whole life ahead of me. You're 59 and retired. We were never going to work. Not really. Age doesn't matter. It does matter, she said. Everything matters. The age, the culture, the money, all of it. Some pure, innocent girl who needed saving, but I don't need saving, David. I need opportunity. She started walking again, and I followed. So what was it all? The church, the family dinners, telling me you loved me? It wasn't all fake, she said. I did care about you. I do care about you. But caring isn't love, and love isn't enough to build a life on. We reached the university gate. Students were streaming past us, young and full of life and possibility. I felt ancient standing there. This is goodbye, she said. Don't do this, Angela, please. She looked at me one last time, and I saw pity in her eyes. Pity was worse than hatred. Take care of yourself, David, she said. Find someone your own age, someone who wants the same things you want. Then she walked through the university gates and out of my life. I spent the next week in my hotel room, adding up the numbers. School fees, family expenses, medical bills, church donations, gifts, nearly $20,000 over 4 months. More than half my savings. More than I'd spent on myself in 2 years. But the money wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the mirror, looking at myself and seeing a fool, a desperate, lonely old man who'd been so hungry for affection that he'd believed every lie a beautiful young girl told him. I thought about Martin's warning. These girls, they're not always what they seem. He'd tried to tell me, and I'd dismissed him. I thought I was smarter, different, special. I thought my Angela was different too, but she wasn't different. She was exactly what she appeared to be, a young woman doing whatever she had to do to survive and build a future. The only person who'd been living in a fantasy was me. I started remembering all the signs I'd ignored, the way she'd deflect questions about her studies, how she always had just enough of a crisis to need money but never enough to want too much at once, the practiced way she'd cried when she needed to manipulate my emotions, the casual expertise with which she'd lied to my face about Thursday night. She'd played me perfectly, fed me exactly what I needed to hear, made me feel valuable, needed, loved, and I'd eaten it up like a starving man at a feast. The worst part was that I couldn't even hate her for it. She'd never promised me forever. She'd never said she loved me until I'd cornered her into it. She'd been honest about needing money, about her family's struggles, about the pressure she was under. I was the one who'd created the fairy tale. I was the one who'd decided she was my angel. She was just a 21-year-old girl trying to get through university and take care of her family in a country where opportunities were limited and foreign men with money were plentiful. She'd done what she had to do to survive. I couldn't fault her for that. But I could fault myself for being so blind, so desperate, so willing to believe that a girl like her could love a man like me for anything other than what I could provide. I left Angeles on a Tuesday morning. No goodbyes, no final attempts to see her. I just packed my things, paid my hotel bill, and caught a bus to Clark Airport. On the plane to Manila, then Bangkok, then finally London, I had 14 hours to think about everything that had happened, about who I'd been when I arrived in the Philippines and who I was leaving as. I'd gone there looking for peace, for redemption, for a chance to be the man I'd failed to be with Sarah and Emma. Instead, I'd become someone worse, a walking cliché. The old expat who falls for the young local girl and loses everything in the process. But maybe that wasn't entirely true. Maybe I'd lost my money and my pride, but I'd gained something too. I'd learned what it felt like to be needed again, even if that need was manufactured. I'd remembered what it was like to care about someone more than myself, even if that care was misplaced. And I'd learned that I was still capable of feeling something other than bitterness and regret. For 4 months, I'd been alive in a way I hadn't been since my marriage fell apart. That had to count for something. I don't hate Angela. I understand her now in a way I didn't then. She was never my angel. She was just a young woman doing whatever it took to build a future in a world that offers limited options to girls like her. She gave me exactly what I paid for. The fantasy of being loved, needed, valued by someone beautiful and young. The tragedy wasn't that she lied to me. The tragedy was that I needed the lies so badly I was willing to pay for them. I'm back in England now, in a small flat in Birmingham, close to where I used to work. I still think about her, sometimes wonder if she finished university, if she found what she was looking for, if she's happy. I hope she is. Despite everything, I hope she got what she needed from life. As for me, I'm learning to live with myself again. Learning to find value in my own company instead of desperately seeking it in someone else's eyes. It's harder than falling in love with a fantasy, but it's more honest. I thought I'd found a church girl who would save me. What I really found was myself, broken, desperate, and human. Maybe that's not such a bad thing to discover, even if it cost me everything I had. The truth is, we were both exactly what we appeared to be. She was a young woman using whatever advantages she had to build a future. I was an old man using whatever money I had to buy the illusion of love. The only difference was that she knew what she was doing, and I was lying to myself. But I'm not lying anymore. And maybe that's worth something. Maybe that's worth everything.